I discovered a sinister, haunted secret in the Ohio woods that will haunt you forever. Laura had always thought of her life as ordinary, until one fateful day turned her world upside down. A tragic accident took her husband away, and now, a single mother in her mid-30s, she fought to keep the pieces together for Mia and Ethan. The town looked quaint, leafy streets, smiling neighbors, but behind those cheerful facades lay something unsettling. Something that began when they discovered the forgotten ruins of the old schoolhouse, buried in a heap of fiery crimson leaves. That day, the air felt different as the trio meandered through the woods. The leaves whispered secrets, and shadows danced around the ancient trees. But when they stumbled upon the decrepit schoolhouse, a chill snaked down Laura's spine. It stood solemn, as if the walls guarded the laughter of children long vanished. Whispers of the keeper of lost souls circled their minds, legend or not. That story crept like a shadow over her heart. At home, the days that followed were shrouded in darkness. Strange happenings became her insistent companions. Shadows flickered past the corners of her vision, skirting the walls like anxious specters. At night, when the wind howled and rattled the windows, she'd hear a voice. Laura, it would call, soft yet penetrating, as if curling itself around her like a cold breath from the grave. You must be imagining things, she told herself, pushing her worries aside. But the whispers clawed through her dreams, piercing her calm. Determined to shield her kids from fear, she pretended everything was fine. Her love should be enough to keep them safe. Then came the nights where Mia and Ethan woke gasping, hands cold and trembling. They'd mutter frantic inquiries, eyes wide with fright. Mom, what's that sound? Who's there? Laura felt a veil descend over her, an oppressive weight, invisible yet fraying her resolve. She visited the town library, diving deep into history, fueled by dread. The elderly librarian, eyes clouded with the weight of untold events, slipped her unsettling accounts of children who disappeared, tales that attached themselves to the name of a local historian who had enchanted the whole town with his charm. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days blurred into a frantic haze, Laura sensed the townsfolk's wary glances, that cloud of suspicion hanging over her like a shroud. Friends who once offered warm smiles knew something was changing, and so did she. It felt accusatory, a silent judgment. The boundaries of safety eroded daily, replaced by creeping paranoia. Her once peaceful home twisted into a prison filled with chilling shadows. When the whispers escalated to a frenzy, she couldn't ignore it any longer. Laura grasped the truth. Her family was in an unseen battle, one that stretched back through layers of time and pain, a curse intertwined with the core of her existence. The keeper was real, and time was running thin. The breath of danger cyclically hovered, chilling her blood and urging her to confront the darkness that had found its way home. Standing tall at the precipice of her reality, the wind shrieked around her, intertwining memories of lost lives with her fading hope. As she dared to confront the keeper, she felt impending doom lurk just beyond the veil. Would she defy the shadows threatening her children's lives, or would she too be consumed, becoming just another whisper lost in the hushed mysteries of the woods? Laura could barely breathe. Each heartbeat reverberated through her body as she traced her steps back to the old schoolhouse. There was an unseen force drawing her in, and with each step, the weight of dread settled further on her chest. It was no longer merely an inheritance of shadow. It was her life entangled in a narrative of horror, one she needed to rewrite. The clearing emerged before her, adorned with snaking roots and errant whispers floating on the wind. A cursed place, she could feel it in the marrow of her bones. She paused, gathering strength. Mia and Ethan stayed behind, their frightened eyes clinging to her every move. Stay close, she instructed without turning around. Her voice was firm, masking the tremor beneath. As she approached the crumbling structure, the air crackled with tension. Nature itself seemed to draw back, as if the trees were warning her against trespassing. The door creaked open with a mournful groan, and Laura stepped inside, her heart racing in sync with the echoing sounds of her pulse. Dust motes danced in slivers of fading light, revealing haunting images etched into the peeling walls. "Stay there," she commanded, her voice barely above a whisper as she glanced back at her children. Inside, the atmosphere thickened, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. Faded drawings clung to the wood, remnants of laughter now morphed into scenes of despair. An abandoned desk sat in the corner, its surface littered with the past insults and cries for help carved into the wood like unfortunate prayers unheeded. Suddenly, a noise broke the heavy silence, a low whisper, thick with malice. "Laura." It slithered through the air, cold and familiar. The name twisted in her mind, snatching the remnants of her bravery. "You shouldn't be here," it warned, vibrating through the bones of the schoolhouse. Laura shivered but pressed on. "I'm not afraid of you," she called into the darkness, her voice betraying her. The shadows swirled, coalescing into figures that flickered at the edge of her vision. What horrors did this place hold? She could sense the keeper's presence lurking just beyond the shadows, patiently waiting. Then she saw it. A familiar face twisted in silent screams, eyes wide and hollow, as if it belonged to someone she once knew, a children's face, forever trapped in a moment. Her breath hitched. "Why?" she cried, despair clutching her throat. "What do you want from me?" The room grew colder, and the air thickened. Across the floor, a creaking sound reverberated, thundering like a heartbeat. The keeper's whisper crescendoed into a crescendo of rage. "Release them or take their place." Mia and Ethan's frightened faces flashed in her mind. It was a choice, a horrific ultimatum. She felt the pull of despair, pulling her down into the abyss of generations past. Another voice joined the shroud, clawing through the fragmented darkness. "Heed the warning." And just like that, the visions vanished, and she was back in the schoolhouse, heart racing, pulse pounding. The silence felt oppressive again. A mix of fear and determination ignited within her. She couldn't let her children suffer this fate. She had to unveil the truth of the keeper. Gritting her teeth, Laura seized the memory of her husband, infused with a fierce love determining her next steps. She wouldn't let the shadows win. But with each moment, the pressure of time was growing unbearable, whispering of secrets too dangerous to uncover. She turned to leave. A shape darted past her, a fleeting shadow whispering her name once more. Laura spun around, dread crawling up her spine. The darkness grew, eyes glimmering as they edged ever closer, entwining her soul with a fate she didn't yet understand. The keeper was hungry, and this time, the bond they shared would call her home. But as she ran back toward her kids, the chilling thought echoed: was their escape from the grip of the keeper, or would they forever serve as lost souls in his wicked grasp? The hunt had begun, and Laura feared she was already too late. What was the truth behind the keeper, and at what cost would it be revealed? Laura stumbled back into the fading light of the schoolhouse, terror painting her features. The weight of the darkness pressed against her, suffocating, squeezing the breath from her lungs. She could hear faint rustling. Mia and Ethan were just outside. Vaguely, she registered the panic mirrored in their young faces, a reflection of the soul-crushing dread she felt. But escaping this cursed place was not the same as freeing her children. The keeper's words, "release them or take their place," replayed in her mind like a sinister chant. She took a deep breath, fighting the urge to collapse. She had walked into the nightmare, but now she needed to arm herself against it. Her fingers brushed against the dusty desktop where words carved in desperation whispered to her. She knelt, peering closer, shivering against the chill creeping through the air. "Help us," one carving pleaded. "Don't trust him," another warned. Each letter was a shrill echo of souls lost, innocent and afraid. "Mom." Ethan's voice broke through the haze, raw and urgent. "Just a second," she shouted back, though her heart sank. Time was slipping away. What did the keeper want? And how could she confront an entity so tethered to evil? The floor groaned under her weight as she stood again. She nearly stumbled, caught off guard by another shadow slipping through the doorway. It darted past like a fleeting thought too fast to grasp. Laura had hissed, barely more than a breath. The familiar chill of fear wrapped her tighter. She turned to chase the shadow, Compelled by some force stronger than her instinct for preservation, moments turned to hours as she searched the empty rooms. Desks lay forsaken, twisted rows of chairs yearning for memories lost. Suddenly, a violent gust of wind swept through the main hall, rattling the windows, howling as if the tormented spirits had come to life. "Get out!" A voice cried out, fierce and desperate, wrapping around her like a noose. She froze, transfixed by the wave of resentment rising from the floorboards, a cacophony of voices blending into one. "He is coming." Panic surged within her, pulling her back toward the door. The schoolhouse had transformed from a derelict building into a trap, alive with anger and confusion. She had to get out. She had to protect her children. Outside, the twilight painted the sky in haunting hues. Mia's gaze darted between the trees, sensing something sinister that even she couldn't articulate. "Mom, can we go home?" Ethan whimpered, grasping her hand tightly. "No," Laura said, her voice trembling with determination. "Not yet." They had to confront whatever dwelled in the shadows. She felt that the keeper was close, an undeniable presence wrapped around the clearing, dark and thick like a smog. Fear mixed with something more of visceral resolve. "Whatever it is," she breathed to herself, "I will face it." Then the shadows coalesced, bending under the gathering darkness, shaping into grotesque figures with hollow eyes, their mouths twisted in soundless screams. "Release us," they moaned together. Her heart raced. The keeper had appeared at last, and the embodiment of all her fears pressed in around her. The spectral arms reached for her, pulling her backward, toward the schoolhouse, yearning to claim her for their own. "Mom!" Mia and Ethan screamed in unison, horror spilling over their innocent faces. An icy grip snatched at Laura's legs, sending shivers racing across her skin. "No, I want tea," she yelled, clawing at the air, fighting against the tide of darkness. She had to protect them. The truth of the keeper twisted in her gut, and the consequences loomed heavy. "I want tea, let you take them," she shouted defiantly as she stood firm against the advancing shadows. But blood-curdling laughter echoed all around her, chilling her to the bone. The keeper had only begun to unveil its true nature. In the depths of despair, Laura felt her resolve weakening, the darkness gnawing at the edges of her mind. Could she face the horrors woven through her family's history, or would she become yet another prisoner in its wretched shrine? Just then, her defiance flickered. What if? A thought rippled in her mind. What if the only way out was to embrace it? The chilling question slithered through her, chilling her core. The keeper was listening, waiting. And suddenly, the shadows lunged, claws reaching hungrily for her soul, promising an answer she could hardly fathom. What sacrifices would she need to make to unravel the truth? And could she trust her own mind in the depths of such dark? Laura's heart thundered in her chest, a primal alarm that echoed throughout her body. Fear clawed at the edges of her sanity as the shadows lunged closer, their murky claws extending like skeletal hands beckoning for her surrender. She could feel the icy breath of the keeper wrapping around her, suffocating her thoughts, diluting her resolve. "Mom, please." Ethan's voice broke through the veil of terror, sharp and pleading, anchoring her briefly to the moment. It jolted her back to the reality that they were in this together. She couldn't let them down. Not now. Not ever. She tore her gaze from the grotesque shadows, eyes darting to her children, their faces etched with horror, mirroring the dark fears swirling inside her. "Hold on to me," she cried, grabbing their hands in a fierce grip that promised protection. The warmth of their small fingers infused her with a flicker of hope, igniting a desperate fight within her. "Release us," the shadows whispered in a chorus, their voices intertwining like a sickening lullaby, wrapping around her like soft silk coated in venom. The air thickened, distorting her vision as images of past horrors flashed before her eyes. Broken promises, lost innocence, the anguish of souls trapped in torment. "Release us, or take their place." The keeper's words crept back into her mind, sinister and seductive. "What do you want from us?" She screamed into the darkness, clenching her fists. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if startled by her confrontation, but their hunger remained relentless. She felt the tug of something deep within her, a pull towards understanding, towards acceptance of the evil that lingered between the worlds. In that moment, A horrifying thought consumed her. What if embracing the darkness meant saving her children? Would it mean laying down her life to release them from their torment? As the keeper's laughter echoed around her, cold and merciless, the shadows recoiled momentarily. Her certainty rattled them. She focused, searching for a weakness in their form, a thread to pull on, an emotion that could break the grip of despair. "You're not stronger than our love," she screamed. With that proclamation, she felt a surge of energy. The shadows paused again, their twisted figures trembling, caught off balance by her fierce declaration. "Mia, Ethan," she stooped to their level, her voice a strained whisper. "Whatever happens, you need to hold on to each other. Don't let go." Then she turned back to the shadows, completely resolute. "I won't run. I won't let you take my children." At that moment, an unearthly roar erupted from the keeper as if challenged by her defiance. Before her, the shadows began to writhe and morph, coalescing into a single, towering figure filled with both rage and desperation. It twisted, distorted, as if the pain of countless souls trapped within it clawed for release. "You think you can defy me?" it hissed, the voice both malevolent and mournful. Pain shot through Laura's heart. Was there truth in its sorrow? "Release them," it intoned again, softer this time, a whisper of longing laced with fury. "Mia, Ethan, don't look," Laura shouted as she threw herself forward, ready to confront the keeper head-on, knowing well the risk to herself. The shadows beckoned, promising her the answers she sought. And with each step, the weight of the choices before her grew heavier. Would her love be enough? Suddenly, darkness surged, swallowing her senses as she dove forward, the spectral arms of the keeper closing in. One final scream tore from her lips, a wrenching sound of defiance and fear, slicing through the air as the shadows enveloped her completely, dragging her into an abyss she couldn't comprehend. All fell silent. Then, amidst the pitch-black void, an echoing laugh rang out, twisted and shaping into a question that prickled her skin, an utterance that seemed to resonate past existence. "What will you sacrifice to save them?" And just like that, Laura understood that the real terror wasn't the keeper or the shadows. It was the choice she would have to make. What price would she pay, and would it be enough to save her children from the keeper's insatiable hunger? Laura plunged into darkness, an unfathomable abyss that swallowed her whole. No light penetrated this realm, only the oppressive weight of shadows pressing against her from all sides. She gasped for air, but it felt as if the very essence of life was being siphoned away by the keeper's relentless grip. Desperation clawed at her throat. "Ethan, Mia," she called, her voice echoing, distorted in the infinite void. Instinctively, she reached out, her fingers grasping nothing but thick, unnerving darkness. Suddenly, images flickered in the blackness. Pictures of a dilapidated house huddled in the woods appeared, her childhood home, drenched in memories both sweet and dark. A chill swept through her as she recalled the whispers of the old oak tree outside, its gnarled branches stretching like bony fingers to touch the sky. Those were the same woods, the same echoes, breathing life into her greatest fears. "Choose." The keeper's voice emerged from the shadows, sing-song and taunting. "What will you give up to save them? Your memories? Your love?" Laura shuddered, the weight of the question anchoring her spirit, dragging her deeper into the pit of despair. The choice was stark, yet insidiously alluring. In her mind's eye, she could see the keeper carving promises into her soul with each weighty word. "I will give you nothing," she screamed, her voice reverberating, filled with raw determination. It felt futile. It didn't stop the shadows creeping closer, coiling around her like serpents. "Looks like the brave mommy has a big heart," the keeper hissed, its voice distorted, flickering like a bug zapper. "But hearts are fragile. They can shatter, just like your children." Panic surged in her chest. Images now filled with her children's faces twisted in pain consumed her. She saw Ethan, his joyful laugh ringing through the house, suddenly frozen, eyes wide with terror. Mia, shivering from something unseen lurking over her shoulders. "No, stop," Laura shouted, but her pleas were muted by the paralyzing weight of despair. "Join them or release them." The keeper's forked tongue flicked from its mouth, tasting her fear. "It's so simple, really. So easy." A push, suffocating her resolve. She felt herself wavering. The shadows buzzed with delight, sensing her wavering spirit. A thought crashed through her. What if she could end this? What if freeing them meant allowing despair to wash over her lifeless body? Did she care if it meant her existence crumbled into dust? Suddenly, a flicker of rebellion sparked within her. I choose to fight, she screamed, anger igniting her spirit. I will not surrender. The keeper grew furious. You think those words will work here? Love cannot be crushed. Not by your shadows. With those words, her heart pulsed, a fierce rhythm pushing against the oppressive darkness. The shadows roared in displeasure, vibrating violently, swirling around her, their forms disrupting like paper caught in a whirlwind. She could feel their rage, but also their fear, a heartbeat of something crumbling inside them. But then the darkness twisted painfully, pulling at her limbs, creating an unbearable force tugging her deeper. It felt like being torn apart, the shadows trying to claim her, and the keeper's laughter echoed, shaking her very core. Embrace the darkness. It's what you need. No, she cried, resolute. You're wrong. I need my children. The void trembled, and for a moment, she thought she detected a sliver of light, faint but urgent, like a tiny star breaking through a stormy sky. But the keeper surged in fury, stinging doubts creeping back. What happens if they don't remember you? What happens if you fail? Stop it, Laura roared, the energy of her love pushing outward, creating a shockwave that threatened to shatter the shadows surrounding her. But fear loomed. What if it was all in vain? Would the keeper win? As the shadows lunged, her heart raced and the light flickered. A choice lay before her. But what if it shattered all she knew? And just then, the silence cracked, a whisper rippling through the void. What if you could save one, but not the other? A chilling question hung in the air as Laura stood at the precipice of fate. Which child would she sacrifice to save the other? The keeper's laughter enveloped her entire being, filling her with dread. What kind of monster would it turn her into? In that instant, Laura understood the darkness she faced wasn't just the keeper's. It was her own torn sense of motherhood. Would it break her to decide? And what would the cost be? Tendrils of darkness seemed to elongate, stretching around Laura as if they were alive, sneering, lusting for her submission. The keeper's voice twisted her thoughts, mocking her mounting dread. One or the other, dear mother. Such a delightful choice. Which child carries more weight in your heart? A cold sweat broke across her forehead. She recalled every innocent smile, every laugh echoed in their little home, but it felt like it was all warped now. How could she choose? Yet the question lingered, a malignant shadow wrapped around her thoughts. No, I refuse. She screamed into the void, her voice caught in a spiral of anguish. I love them both. I want to let you toy with me. Love doesn't guide the hand that chooses, Laura the keeper crooned, its voice slashing through her like a blade. Love creates fear, and fear makes monsters, doesn't it? Images swirled violently, Ethan's bright eyes dimming, Mia's playful spirit withering. The relentless pull of despair wrapped tighter around her, squeezing like a vice. What if saving one means losing the other forever? What would they remember of you, dear mommy? A ghostly whisper, or the mother that chose? Laura's heart pounded against her ribcage. The darkness pulsed with every frantic beat, a morbid rhythm taunting her composure. I want to let you win. You're nothing but a parasite. But as her fury surged, the shadows contorted, splitting the darkness like a curtain, unveiling an unseen horror. And suddenly, there were faces in the dark, twisted visages of those who had fallen to the keeper before. They surrounded her now, mouths moving in a silent scream, eyes hollow and desolate. She gasped, "No, who are you?" "Just echoes like you," they whispered, their voices merging into a haunting lullaby. "We were once mothers, daughters, sons lost to this realm. We are what you could become." A wavering line of terror stretched before Laura. She could see the agony etched into their features, shadows of regret that lingered. Horror and recognition crashed together inside her. "I want to end up like you. I'll fight until my last breath." "Will you fight for both?" The keeper's hiss filled the air, now laced with a thread of temptation, coaxing, urging. "Or just one? The choice depends on how far you're willing to go." In that moment, darkness rolled in, as heavy as molasses. Her pulse quickened as panic flooded her thoughts. "What is this? What do you want?" The keeper wheezed, a guttural laugh resonating through the suffocating darkness. "What I want? Oh, It's simple, your resolve. You don't need every heartache, every memory. Just take what's essential, the heavy burdens. Let it go. No, she whispered, yet the words felt flimsy. A part of her battled fiercely, while another began to contemplate the unbearable choice. But then, in the shadows, something glimmered. A pulse of warmth illuminated the shackles of despair. It flickered like a candle fighting against a storm. Laura felt a surge of hope, a rush of adrenaline surging through her veins. I will take back what's mine. I won't let you have my children, not even if it costs you everything. The keeper's voice slithered into her mind, seeking her fear, her doubt, the darkness thrumming with anticipation. You're all alone now. Is love enough to save you? With each breath, Laura summoned her desperation, grasping for that light. Yes, as long as I'm true to myself, I'll fight. A violent rush surged through the shadows, vibrating with ire. The keeper's laughter morphed, the shadows recoiling as if sensing the shift in power. But beyond this surge of strength, a chilling realization took root in Laura's heart. As the echoes of defeated souls whispered around her, a harrowing truth crashed upon her consciousness like a wave. What if the light they sensed wasn't her strength, but the very darkness reflected in their despair? The flickering warmth dimmed, a new question surfacing amidst the chaos. If you truly wish to save your children, what will you sacrifice to shield them from shadows? A rush of uncertainty flooded through her as determination gnawed at the edges of her heart. Would she suffer so that they may live? And what did that even mean? A deafening silence fell, heavy and pregnant with fear. Then, from somewhere deep within the void, the keeper's voice echoed. What will you do, Laura? What will you choose? As tension enveloped her, Laura's breath quickened, the stakes higher than ever. Would love be enough, or would she be forced to embrace the very darkness she fought so desperately against? What price would she pay for hope? Laura's heart thundered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the oppressive silence. Shadows twisted, reaching for her, as if they could sense her indecision, their cold tendrils like icy fingers brushing against her skin. Choose. The keeper urged, its voice honeyed with malice. What are you willing to lose? Love or your children? She clenched her fists, nails biting into her palms, desperate to block out its insidious whispers. Her mind raced with visions of Ethan's laughter, the way Mia danced like sunlight in their living room. How could she choose between them? I refuse to decide. They are both my world. Ah, but they are not the same, it hissed, and suddenly the air shifted, charged with dread. The spectral faces, once silent, now screamed their agony, a cacophony of loss and despair enveloping her like a flesh-eating fog. Laura staggered backward, the bodies shifting, revealing her children at their center. Their eyes wide with fear, mouths open in a scream that never broke the silence. No, not like this. She wanted to run toward them, to shield them from this horror, but heavy chains of darkness anchored her in place. Get away from them. Laura the keeper whispered, seductive, intoxicating. You cannot fight fate. Embrace the darkness. It's a part of you, and there it was, the truth she had locked away. Doubts crawled to the surface, slithering like serpents in her mind. What if she was the true monster? Could she truly shield them from her own shadows? No. My children, the words became a breathless sob, the reality crushing her spirit. She turned her gaze back to the flickering light that had previously illuminated her resolve. It dimmed now, a feeble glow, as the keeper's laughter bubbled like poison around her. Are you willing to embrace the darkness to protect the light? It sung, wrapping its voice around her like vines, squeezing tighter with every word. Sacrifice one to save the other. Just say the words. A shudder snaked through her body. The keeper offered her salvation with one hand and damnation with the other. Sweat trickled down her back. Her breath came in gasps. The children remained trapped in the whirlpool of shadows, their silhouettes flickering like dying flames. Ethan's voice cut through the chaos, a soft, pleading sound that sent a surge of fierce love coursing through her. Mommy, please. Mia's tiny hand reached out, fingers stretching toward her, transparent and shaking with fear. Help us, she cried, but the keeper's grip tightened around her heart, squeezing the hope from her. Think, it commanded, an impatient hiss. What is the price? A shattering realization gripped Laura, her love, her devotion, unworthy against this wicked force. But the weight of the truth was too heavy, paralyzing. If she couldn't choose, maybe it would choose for her. "Mommy, please." Mia's voice echoed pleadingly, resonating in her very bones. "No," Laura screamed, clawing against the darkness that threatened to consume her. "I want to give in. You want to take them." With every ounce of will, she reached for the flicker of light, letting it channel through her, a beacon of desperate hope. "You can't have them." The shadows recoiled, but the keeper's laughter shook the ground beneath her. "You think defiance will save you? I want to be a victim." Determination surged, igniting a fire in her core. "I will fight until my last breath." The world around her began to ripple, the darkness oscillating as if in reaction to her resistance. She could feel the keeper's rage, twisting in fury, a malevolent storm brewing. Laura's heart ached with an awareness that sent a chill deep within her soul. What if this was just the beginning? What if this darkness was only a harbinger, a mere glimpse of what lay ahead? She felt the ground tremble, shudders of old and new fear converging as the keeper's voice rose to a fever pitch. "Then fight. But when the dawn breaks, who will you be?" The pit of her stomach roiled at the implications, and just as the shadows began to shift, a blinding light erupted in the darkness, pushing against the tendrils that sought to ensnare her. But as hope swelled in her chest, the keeper's voice whispered, low and wicked, "This is only the first test, dear mother. What if the choice you make next have far greater consequences?" The blinding light surged forward, engulfing her, and the shadows recoiled in fury. A new battle was coming. But would she have the strength to face it? Or would she crumble beneath the weight of her fears? What new horror awaited her in the depths of the unknown? The light consumed Laura, brighter than anything she had ever known, piercing the excruciating veil of darkness. She felt weightless for a moment, suspended between worlds. Just when she thought she might be freed, the light shattered, splintering into countless fragments that scattered like marbles across a dusty floor. Then darkness snatched her back, wrapping her in its suffocating embrace again. The keeper's laughter echoed, a grotesque cheer that twisted her insides. "You thought the light would save you? How naive." As her surroundings settled, Laura found herself not in the comforting embrace of home, but in a twisted landscape of the familiar, a warped version of her own neighborhood. The houses loomed, not as homes, but as gaping maws, their windows dark and hollow, waiting to swallow her whole. Panic clawed at her throat. "Ethan." "Mia." Silence answered, the emptiness echoing her despair. She staggered, the pavement beneath her cracked and uneven, grasping at the remnants of her sanity in the threatening chaos. "Choose, dear heart," the keeper crooned from the corners of her mind, a snake slithering through her thoughts. "One more choice. Your children or your sanity." "No." Her voice cracked, reverberating against the detached shadows, but deep down a dreadful uncertainty coursed through her. What if this never ended? Her fists trembled as she glanced at the looming shadows. They were indistinct but held the outlines of her fears, moments of weakness, decisions gone wrong, flashes of a life that could have been. A part of her yearned for the resolve that defied this nightmare. But with each passing moment, doubt gnawed at her resolve, inviting her to question was she truly worthy of saving them. The wind whispered her name, a ghostly call that sent chills down her spine. She turned, hoping to see Ethan or Mia bounding toward her, but instead, the shadows began to coalesce. Figures emerged, silhouettes twisted in agony, shifting between familiar faces and unspeakable horrors. "Help us!" they cried in a chorus, their voices a mix of her children, lost friends, and haunting regrets. "Get away from them!" she screamed, putting hands to her ears, trying to block out their pleas. Each voice cut like a jagged shard in her heart, raw and bleeding. What would happen if she couldn't withstand this storm? "What will you decide?" The keeper taunted, its voice oozing through the darkness. "Sacrifice your sanity for their salvation? Or let them go?" Then she felt a pull in her core, cold and biting, laced with despair. Her memories flickered like a slideshow, bathing her children, tucking them into bed, the warmth of their smiles. But twisted faces of regret joined them, hands reaching out, pulling her deeper into sorrow. "Mommy, please, we need you." She could see them, trapped between realms, Ethan with wide eyes, Mia trembling. The keeper would twist the blade deep if she didn't act. But how could she decide? Darkness began creeping into her heart, wrapping fingers around her very essence. Could she steel herself against this sinister force? Make the choice. Who do you love more? No. Laura thrashed, fighting against the heavy weight of despair, the nagging truth clawing at her. I refuse. But deep down, she felt the weight shifting, fracturing her resolve. The shadows tightened around her, and a sharp pang of fear gripped at her heart. Was this the point where she'd break? Laura, the whisper curled around her like smoke, flickering in and out. The keeper's voice faded, replaced by something familiar. It was sweet and sorrowful. Choose me, Mommy. Fear gripped her, yet amidst the uncertainty, a flicker of determination ignited in her chest. No, I will not betray them. But as the shadows began to hiss, fluttering around her, familiar voices started to fade into a chilling silence. Would her defiance cost her everything? As the overwhelming darkness thickened, she could barely breathe. What will happen? Suddenly, the air grew still. A weight settled, and all faded to silence. In that moment, she realized she hadn't made her choice yet. What if the keeper had something far worse awaiting if she failed to decide? Something darker than the shadows that now consumed her heart. Laura gasped, the silence crushing her, amplifying the pounding of her heart. She felt as if time had come to a halt, stretching out into an agonizing infinity. Every second dragged painfully, teasing her with what lay ahead. The suffocating darkness wrapped tighter, squeezing the air from her lungs, while shadows whispered her name, a sinister song that wound around her thoughts. Make your choice, Laura, the keeper breathed, its voice a dark melody woven with malevolence. I can give you everything or take it all away. Images flooded her mind, thick and suffocating. Ethan laughing, Mia dancing in the rain, her world bathed in innocence. But beneath this warmth lurked an ugly truth, a darkness she had tried to forget. Was she strong enough to protect them? Or would her failure condemn them all to the abyss? In the distance, she heard the crackling of dry leaves. The echoes of footsteps approached slowly, agonizingly deliberate. Were they real? Or just a cruel trick of the darkness? Laura edged backwards, her eyes scanning the twisted yard, desperate for a sign. Do you wish to save them? The keeper's voice slithered through the night, draped in silk, yet heavy with iron. Make the choice. Would you rather have your children back, or would you rather be free of this burden? It's simple, just say the word. The voices danced around her, a cacophony of desperate pleas, blurring the line between what was real and what was conjured by the cruel keeper. Mommy, they cried. Please help us. Mommy, stop, she shouted, clutching her head as if to shake them off like a bad dream. Every repetition twisted the knife deeper, and panic clawed at her chest. I want to betray you. I refuse to choose. For a moment, the shadows stilled, drawn back like a tide. But that didn't last long. They surged forward again, more aggressive now, closing in on her. The mingled cries morphed into shrieks of terror, and her heart raced. She could feel it. She was beginning to crack. The air grew cold. A figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette of a familiar shape. Mommy, help. A small hand reached toward her, pale and trembling. Mia. Tears pricked her eyes, a surge of hope bursting through the despair. She reached out, but as their hands almost touched, the figure flickered, distorting and collapsing into a mass of darkness. No. The keeper let out a shriek that was both laughter and rage, slashing through her like a knife. They are lost. You know that. You can never save them. But you can save yourself. Conflicted, Laura felt the weight of despair pressing against her. What if she was the weakness? What if lingering in this darkness led to their eternal torment? Time is ticking, Laura. The keeper's voice was now a sinister hiss, echoing around her. Decide, or lose all that you hold dear. Suddenly, the memory of a faded photo popped into her mind, one solitary picture filled with laughter, sunshine, and happiness before everything fell apart. Choose me, Mommy. She could almost hear Mia's voice shimmering through the darkness. The shadows began to stir violently, hungry and restless. With every second, her resolve wavered further and further. What were the consequences? Would she finally let them go to find peace? But the cost could be too high. You can save one. The keeper slithered closer, its voice now a two-edged blade. Your sanity or your children. Choose. Laura felt like she was drowning, swept away in waves of uncertainty. The weight of her silence pressed down on her until she couldn't bear it. No, she cried, voice breaking, caught between worlds. I want to decide. But as she screamed it into the void, she could feel shadows closing in, darker than before. Would she lose everything? The darkness undulated, shifting with insatiable hunger. As Laura succumbed to the weight, she realized the decision was no longer hers alone. What if she had unwittingly chosen for them all along? The night held its breath as Laura teetered on the brink of despair, darkness swirling around her. The faint cries of Ethan and Mia echoed in her mind, blending with the keeper's cruel taunts. What will you sacrifice? The question danced through her consciousness like a haunting refrain. I want to choose. She shouted defiantly, her voice raw, yet filled with desperation. You want to take them. But shadows surged, hungry tendrils wrapping around her limbs, tightening their grip. You're weak, Laura, the keeper hissed, its voice oozing with malevolence. Every moment you resist, they slip further away. With each whisper of the keeper, memories clawed their way to the forefront of her mind, her children laughing, sharing secrets, their small hands warm in hers. Fragments of love cut through the darkness. They were her light, but shadows twisted the edges of those memories, morphing their brightness into something sharp and jagged. You could save one. The keeper's voice dripped with twisted temptation, painting a vivid image of each child. Which would you choose? An icy chill washed over Laura, squeezing her heart. The reality of the question felt like a knife twisting in her gut. No, she cried, I can't choose. But already, her heart wavered, doubts creeping in as shadows danced hungrily. Moments felt like hours as the darkness closed in. A pair of small hands flickered through the void, reaching for her, desperate. Mommy, Ethan's voice echoed softly, barely above a whisper. Help us. She felt the warm pulse of love, and suddenly she realized the truth. Choosing would rip her apart, but her love could unite them. If I cannot choose, I will fight, she declared, her voice cutting through the oppressive silence. Foolish mother, the keeper hissed, the shadows swirling violently. Your defiance will cost you dearly. Yet Laura stood firm, heart pounding with determination. I will fight for both. My love is stronger than your shadows. I want to let fear decide. With every ounce of willpower, Laura forced her hand forward, feeling the warmth of the memories envelop her. The shadows recoiled, screeching and twisting as if in pain. The light flickered around her, a beacon of hope pushing back against the suffocating darkness. Release them, she shouted into the void, her voice a fierce command. You can't hold them forever. The keeper's laughter faltered, replaced by an unearthly shriek. You think your love can save them? Pathetic. But Laura felt a shift, a tremor of defiance rippled through the shadows as they pulsed with uncertainty. I choose love, she cried, each word echoing in the chasm. I choose to fight for their lives against you. The darkness thrashed, shadows swirling like a tempest, but Laura felt their grip weakening. She envisioned Ethan and Mia, their faces bright with laughter. You're not my darkness. You're the shadows of the past. I reclaim my children and break your curse. A blinding light exploded from her heart, spreading through the void, pushing back against the shadows until screams echoed like thunder as the keeper writhed in fury, its power dissipating. Mia, Ethan, she called, reaching desperately for her children. Come to me. The shadows scattered, flaring out like flames in a gust of wind. And then, in the swirling remnants, she saw them, Ethan grasping Mia's hand, their eyes filled with hope and fear. Mommy, they shouted in unison, their voices threading hope through the chaos. And then, with a surge of fierce love, they ran to her, the distance between them closing in as walls of darkness crumbled around them. The moment they collided, Laura gathered them into her arms, warmth and light enveloping them. In that embrace, the keeper's screeches echoed, like 1,000 cries colliding, shattering against their union. The shadows exploded in one final, pitiful gasp, and then, silence. Breathless and trembling, Laura knelt on the ground, holding her children tightly. The oppressive weight lifted, and the air felt different, fresh, clean, like a spring morning after a long winter. Mia's bright eyes gazed up at her, filled with wonder. Mommy, We're safe? Laura nodded, tears streaming down her face, overwhelmed by relief. It's over, my darlings. We're safe. Together. Ethan breathed heavily, wiping his tears. You fought for us, didn't you? Always, she replied, her heart swelling. I'll fight for you every day. The sun broke through the trees, illuminating the forest. Time seemed to stand still, but the weight of their bond surged through them, a truth that would outlast the shadows. This was their new beginning. Hand in hand, they walked away from the remnants of darkness, leaving behind the Keeper's curse forever. They stepped into the light, where laughter and love would bloom, untainted by fear. Their story would continue, and they would flourish together. But as they turned to leave the haunted woods, a soft whisper lingered in the air, reminding them of the shadows that would always remain. But it didn't matter. They had each other, and that was everything. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any of the upcoming thrilling stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm seriously. It makes a difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. Your voices matter. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Join our community of true fans today.